been searching down every dead end road. The only treasure it's brought me ain't nothing but food.
So, I've got some good news. At least good news for me. I don't know about for you. I was given a post leg vise, in need of repair, mind you, but it is a very interesting post leg vise. Let me show you. Let's see. Check this thing out. I've got huge hands. Look at that. That nut all by itself probably weighs 5 or 10 pounds. This thing is huge. A guy from church who I love very dearly said he had one after he saw mine and needed some repairs, but I could have it if I wanted it. This thing has 6 to 6.5 inch jaws right here in the front. Crazy. I don't know what somebody was thinking though, because it looks like they actually cut this off with a torch. What's wrong with people? Why would you do that? Such an amazing tool. But I thought I'd give you guys a look and a little perspective about how big that one is compared to the Colombian from my previous video. This one here weighs, I don't know, roughly 55 pounds. And it has, I believe those jaws were around 5 inches. They were pretty close. And this guy here is just huge, man. Just huge. I mean, look at the difference in size between these two guys. I just stepped on scale with that new vise, and it looks like it weighs about 124 pounds. And that's not even including the other part of the leg that's supposed to be on it. Crazy! I know to some of you this is no big deal. You've seen vices like this your whole life, but for me, that's a heavy duty vise. I gotta get that into service. Okay, today is gonna be the day I'm gonna put some work into this monster. Gotta give it its tail back. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have to address it or not. Probably will. That bolt is missing a nut. It's supposed to have a nut here. And although for some reason it hasn't affected the jaw operation up there, which I would wager is due to the fact that this joint between these two is so tight that it doesn't really make a big difference so long as there's a fulcrum point. The thing we're addressing in this particular scenario is right here. This looks like it's been cut off with a torch, and this is unacceptable. This guy has to have the post, or rather the leg part of this post vise in order so that I can put it into service. So, man, I'm really not sure how old this is, but everything I see on it appears to be forged. I'm not sure what kind of steel this is. At worst, it's old wrought iron, which I think is actually possible. At best, they were forging some kind of mild steel when they made this. But I don't believe an arc welder ever touched this thing. I believe these pieces were actually forge welded on to this. But yeah, I'm definitely going to try to weld on a chunk of mild steel round that I have that's about the same size. And we'll see how this goes. So I'm about to test this steel a little bit. I'm going to see how it reacts to my stick welder with 7018 rod. It's a small welder. It's not super hot. But I'm going to try to fill in some of these gaps here because I don't want to take away too much length when I bevel it down to try to run beads around it to build it up. So I'm going to build up a little bit of a cone hopefully here, and then I'll bevel it back in preparation for attaching the other piece that I have in mind to use for this. That's not a bad first test. Seemed to react all right. See the way the slag is lifting itself off the weld? That's a good sign that you've got your welder dialed in to where it should be. Not perfect, but not bad for a guy who has done it a lot in the last 20 years. Okay, about done with prep on this end. The good news is as I'm grinding, I'm not really seeing any trapped slag or any significant porosity, which means the welding I did turned out pretty good. I'm actually pretty happy with myself considering I haven't really welded a whole lot over the years. But yeah, I just had to clean really good between each pass that I did just to make sure I got a good start to the weld and a good finish to the weld. But the problem I'm seeing here though is you may not be able to see it, but that is ever so slightly skewed that way. So when I match it up with the next piece, that's probably gonna make an awkward little transition. I don't know, we'll see. Okay guys, I'm here up the forge now with a very large piece of round stock that I have welded onto a piece of rebar because I don't have any tongs yet. I'm in the middle of making some. And even if I had tongs built, this is a really heavy piece. That's about, I don't know, 5 to 10 pound piece of steel right there. So anyways, this is going to be the new leg part of that monster vise. So I'm going to go ahead and get started kind of forging this down to taper it from this end to that end ever so slightly so that this piece is all forged. So when I join it with the welding here onto the other piece, I'll then just be able to maybe hammer peen it and maybe patina it and make it all look like it originally did. That's the goal. So anyways, let's get started. I knew this beast was going to be really hard to heat up, but man, it's going to take a while. This thing is huge. I mean, it's barely even getting cherry red yet, and it's been at least a good 5 minutes or so. Some days, you just really wish you had a power hammer. Unfortunately, this is the power, and this is the hammer. That's a lot of work. So I don't know if you can see it on my face right now, but I've had about all I can take. I've got 2 new blisters on my hand. Things are just getting so hot with that piece, I just can't even get my hand close to it. So it's going to have to be good enough for now. Well guys, here's the piece, all cooled off, and yeah, it's not perfect. As I put it up against a flat surface, I realize it's got an ever so slight bow on one side. The surface finish isn't really quite as good as I was hoping for, but man, it was like thousands of blows on this thing with that big old hammer, and I should have started by wearing a glove. Because I didn't start wearing a glove, I've got a big old blister there, and I've got a really big blister there, and I've got a pretty big blister right there on my thumb also. So due to these issues, I'm not doing any more forging today, and probably not tomorrow either. This hand is really kind of giving me some pain now. It would have been much smarter to have wore a glove on that hand the whole time, but not always known for my smarts. Okay, so I told y'all I wasn't going to do any more forging today because of my hand, which actually does hurt pretty bad. But here's the thing. This round stock, I think, is about the perfect size to bend around this to use as the rest for the leg portion of the vise when you put it in some sort of a mount at the bottom. There's always a little ledge to be caught there. So I'm thinking this piece might make that good ledge if I kind of turn this into a ring that fits perfectly on there and then weld it around there. The question is going to be, once I forge that ring, should I try to forge weld the joint closed? Or should I go ahead and just keep it close enough and use the actual arc welder? I don't know if this is the right angle I should even be cutting it at, but it's what I'm gonna do. Alright. Well, folks, in about a good 15-20 seconds, I'm gonna try my first ring forge weld. I know I didn't scarf it correctly because I didn't have a chisel or anything up here to properly cut that. But I'm gonna try to make it happen anyway. Let's see what we can do. Oh, that definitely didn't work. Oh, I should have done it sideways. That would have made a lot more sense. Yeah, that's how I should have done it. Here goes nothing. Well, that actually looks like it did forge weld. Well, she ain't perfect, but I think that'll work, and I can weld it from there with the arc welder. Yeah. So that was my first time attempting a forge weld in a ring. And doing that, I didn't do any research on that. I really should have scarfed it and done it from the side with a proper angle of each cut to match each other. But the forge weld held mostly. There was a little spot that delaminated, but it's there. I'm happy. Cool. Well, after about 8 welding rods and some grinding, here's where I'm at. I'm liking the way that it looks, but I wanted to completely conceal the fact that I arc welded so that this looked more original. And man, I don't know, unless I really grind into this edge really hard, you're gonna see that I did some arc welding. Well, I decided that I'm sick of lifting this big heavy thing all over the place in one big piece. So instead I broke it down into its individual pieces and scraped some of the nasty stuff that's kind of been built up on it over the years. And look at this. Look at all this stuff I just scraped off of that. That thing just is covered, and I'm not even anywhere near done cleaning it up. Well, I'll clean it up enough to get to my repair and then continue on. Okay, so I'm about to undergo the hardest part. Maybe not the most labor-intensive part, but the hardest part. Trying to keep that leg straight while joining it here with all those multi-passes I'm going to do is extremely hard. So I think the key is going to be getting it tacked in there real good and then hoping it doesn't suck over to one side and become a problem. Okay, so the inside welds are done. They don't look great, but they're done good enough. And it looks reasonably straight and in line with the rest of it. So I'm just going to kind of clean those up and fill it on in. From here on out, it's a lot easier. Now I just got to fill it in and then somehow smooth that transition so it doesn't look like somebody arc welded it. Almost done with the welding. Just a few more filler passes and I'll be all set. So I noticed that the nubbin was slightly smaller than this. Not by much, but enough so that I'm kind of running my beads up a bit here to try to build that up just a little bit so I don't lose that sense of a taper that comes from here down to here. I know it's not much of a taper, it's very slight, but it's going to look very awkward if it's smaller here than here. Well, here she is, all welded and kind of ground and sanded up. Doesn't look perfect. If you look close at it, you'll be able to tell I welded it, but you'll have to look close at it. I like it. Well, all this welding and grinding and leaning over parts is really getting to me for now. I cleaned most of the stuff up, but before I clean up for the day, I just kind of put the other side of the vise just kind of back in its slot for now, just to see this puppy with the tail. Yeah, that's right, this dragon's got a tail now, and it's a little bit different colored, but we'll see if we can patina that to make it better. Okay guys, the wait is over. I'm finished cleaning it up. I am done. All I have left to do is to mount it on that big old stump over there and get it into service. This was a lot of hard work. Just so you know, after I wire brushed everything down, I wiped it down with some of the Lin wax I made in a different video. Anyhow, this video is getting really long. I'm super happy to have this thing. A special thank you to Dave Demick. He's the guy at church who loved me enough to go ahead and bequeath this beautiful tool to me. If you made it this far in the video, I'm sure you appreciate old tools like this too, and it just warms my heart to put something that's 100 years old back to serious work and continue in that tradition. Anyways, y'all have a great day.